When someone asks me what do, I tell them that I'm an artist. And I like to keep it intentionally vague to seem cool, but also because I don't like to box myself into a single medium. Right now in 2025, I'm in my fashion motherfucker, photo videographer era. But before that, I was a graphic designer, I studied architecture, I taught sculpture, and I even did stand-up comedy. But my first love, my first muse, the Meek Mill to my Diddy, was animation. I was the kind of kid growing up that binge-watched Naruto and Evangelion. I used to pause Linkin Park AMVs just to put paper over the screen and trace Sasuke. To say that being a full-time character animator was a childhood dream of mine would be a complete understatement. So I was pretty proud of the fact that I was able to turn my childhood dream into a reality just a couple years after high school. But after working in the industry for over a year, I realized that this dream job was just another boring 9 to 5, and I made the decision to walk away. My time as an animator was pretty brief, but I got to work on a couple TV shows and commercials. And when I say animation, I don't mean some like boring, like motion graphics, nothing like dry like that. I'm talking about like traditional, old school, frame by frame, Disney style animation. And the reality of this industry is kind of bleak for the most part. It's a very small, competitive industry with more aspiring animators than there are available jobs. And this results in low pay and long hours. To put in perspective, I used to work Monday to Friday, 45 hours a week just to make 800 bucks. And that's Australian dollars, pre-tax. I could have made more money working part-time at KFC. But at the time I didn't mind it because, it was my first full-time job and I was just happy to make any money as an artist. But as you get older, your standard of living increases and 40K a year just wasn't gonna cut it for me. And if you've watched my channel, you know I like nice things. But the main reason I left is that I simply grew out of animation as an art form. I might catch heat for this, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but animation is inherently childish. I understand that there's Adult Swim, there's Ghibli films, there's hentai, but the vast majority of animation is targeted to kids and Disney adults. When you're in high school, it's easy to relate to the awkward, naive protagonist that makes up the majority of anime. But for me personally, the further I got into my 20s, the more I just couldn't connect. Recurring themes like falling in love for the first time or losing your virginity or I just don't fit in with the rest of my classmates just wasn't compelling to me anymore. I then started to gravitate toward the kind of storytelling you can find in live action film. And until one day I just stopped watching anime completely. To each their own, but that just ain't my scene, it ain't my aesthetic anymore. Also, animation is hands down the most time-consuming art form. Like the input to output ratio just wasn't worth it for me anymore. Think of how easy it is to take a photo or a video. Yeah, you might have to plan things, you have to create a concept, put a team together, but the physical act, ultimately you just press a button. But with animation, you have to do all that pre-production work still, but then you have to draw each and every single individual frame. That's like minimum 12 frames a second. It requires huge teams to even pull off just a 3-minute short film, which means you can't do it on your own. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and your creative vision, if you're granted that, becomes diluted by corporate committee. Animation is a lifestyle because it has to be. You're gonna be glued to your desk 10 hours a day. And during my time as an animator, I was just so creatively drained at the end of the day that there's like a 2-year dead zone where I made no art for myself outside of my day job. Some people can thrive in that environment, but that just wasn't me. Now, do I regret dedicating so much of my life, more than a decade, to pursue animation? Surprisingly, no, I don't. Animation gave me some of my first viral hits on the internet. And no matter how removed I am from the medium, the skills and knowledge I learned studying the art form directly translates to what I'm doing today. The ability to analyze form, color, lighting, timing, I learned all of that during my time as an animator. I'm not gonna lie though, it was pretty hard for me to quit animation because it was my best talent in life. It was my identity. But I think the only way to grow as an artist is to concentrate your efforts towards what you're passionate about and what challenges you, and to discard the things that are no longer serving you. The fact that my face wasn't attached to any of my animations or illustrations, that was really helpful for me as a child because it served as a barrier for any criticism. And trust me, when I was like 10 years old posting shit online, I got a lot of hate comments. It was a way for me to hide. But now that I'm older, I don't really care about that so much. I'm a lot more confident in myself and I can stand by my art. I've probably read over 1,000 hate comments in my life, And you know, after a certain point, you just have to develop thick skin. These days it's rare, but the odd hate comment here and there is actually kind of funny to me. I naturally made the shift to fashion and content creation because that's more my vibe now. That's just where my life took me. Also, it pays more. I'm an extrovert, so I like to be out and about. I like to travel. I like to meet new people. I like to work with my hands. I'd rather be spending my time touching grass with beautiful people, talking and wearing dope shit, instead of trolling through Discord channels with a bunch of like, you know, greasy, pasty virgins. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, look, some of you guys are cool, but let's be real here. I'd rather be spending my time with this person instead of that, you know? Hey, I'm just being real, okay? Now, do I recommend animation to anyone interested today? If this is your passion, I don't want to shit in your parade. You know, you don't need me to tell you what to do. But if your creative goals can be accomplished in another art form, I'd say go for that instead, because it probably pays more and it's a lot less time consuming. The reality is the golden age of animation is long gone. It ain't the 1950s anymore. Unless you move out to LA or Vancouver, or you want to be a Japanese salaryman, there is zero demand for animators. And good luck with AI coming into the mix. In the near future, animation studios can probably get away with just drawing keyframes and then automating all tweening. I mean, I suppose you can go independent and make your own animations for an online audience, but every big animator I can think of burnt out 5 or 6 years ago. They've moved on to other mediums because frame by frame animation, it just isn't compatible with today's algorithms. But hey, if you're passionate about it, fucking go for it, man. You know, there will always be exceptions. Animation will always have an important role in my journey as an artist. Like Meek Mill in the missionary position, it is the foundation in which my entire art career rests on top of. And I'm very fortunate enough to be able to say that I accomplished a childhood dream so early on in my life. But childhood dreams, you know, sometimes when you reach them as an adult, they just don't live up to expectations. I don't regret my career decisions. It's led me to where I am now. If you followed me initially because of my animations in the past, I'm sorry to say, but I am officially retired. I might incorporate some animation, some illustrations here and there. You know, when I was thinking back when I was making this video, it was nice to bathe in a bit of nostalgia, you know, think about all those animes, those animations I used to watch. And it was fun to animate those little chapters in between. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, animation takes so long to do, and those little 2-second animations I did to break up the chapters of this video, that was the longest part of making this entire video. So I'm not gonna make those full-length animations again. But yeah, if you want to pursue animation, I'm not stopping you, I'm not discouraging you. You know, go for it if you want to. That's just my take on it. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. You already know what I'm gonna say here. Like, subscribe if you haven't. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't either. Yeah, it's me, it's your boy. Peace.